Well, it's getting to be that time of year again where it's time to start planning for your garden. As you can see here, I've let mine get away from me a little bit on the raised beds. But today we're going to talk about planning for your garden. Not the work that goes into it, but the pre-planning. When you're going to get your seed, how you going to do that, and how will you plan for that. I'm going to go through some things on the computer that I use and go through a website that I use to plan the garden before I ever start working on the garden here. If you want to grow your seeds inside the house, then you need to know when to do that, when the best time to do that is. And I'm going to show you the site that I use to do all that kind of research to figure that out today. When we're talking about planting a garden, I found a tool online that seems to work pretty good. It's at a site called Garden Supply. And I just go to Google, type in Garden Supply Planner, because it's not the easiest to find when you go straight to their site. But when you go there, you go to this Kitchen Garden Planner and click on it. So the first place I want to start and point you towards is this vegetable encyclopedia. Right here, click on this. And what you're going to find here is you can look around a little bit. Let's just go to tomatoes, for instance. And here you can see everything you need to know. Well, everything they want to tell you, I guess, about the tomatoes. But this is pretty helpful to me. You can look at things like when to start the seed, what type of tomatoes, things like that. But that'll help you when you're doing your raised bed garden. I like tomatoes, so those are ones that I would pick. I also like zucchini. Let's see what it says about zucchini. It says that zucchini is one of the easiest vegetable crops to grow. So that may be something you'd want to plant if you like zucchini. It's pretty easy to grow. It grows a lot too, so and it's not a whole lot of work. They'll get some bugs on it sometimes that'll sting the plant and mess you up, but they do pretty good on squash, zucchini squash. So the next thing I would like to talk about on this is when you go back here, you got your vegetable encyclopedia, and you can go back to where we had the planner, and you can look at this pre-planned gardens. And this is something that I have used in the past. It gives you a little more detail on how you can plant these gardens and set them up. But so this is, you select a certain garden, and then you can design your garden after that garden. Let's go down to the totally tomatoes. So this is going to be a garden that has nothing but tomatoes in it. But it's going to give you a little more detail on what to do in the garden. So you got your tomato, you plant 1/4 of an inch deep, indoors, 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. So it tells you a lot more detail on when to plant, your spacing, days to harvest. So when you put it out there, how long is it going to take before you can actually get tomatoes? So it's going to give you a little more detail. Now you go back, you can look at different ones. Let's go look at, let's see if we can find one that has squash in it. Let's see what this plant and forget it has. So yeah, it does have some squash in it. Cucumbers, some onions, some peppers, tomatoes. So it has a little bit of everything, but it's going to tell you on the cucumber, this is what you would need to do. The onions, you need to do this. The hot peppers, it gives you some information on that. If you're looking at beans, summer squash, so it tells you a little more detail, when to plant, what to plant, how far apart, how deep to plant, for these different things when you go into the pre-planned gardens. Now another option that I like that it's not available right now is this design your own. On this one, when it was working, you could put your plants in the garden, and then it'd give you that same level of detail. But this is just a little free version of how you can plan out a raised bed. There's obviously different things that you can do, but it has all kind of selections of what kind of bed you want to plant. Here's one that's fun for the kids. And of course, it's got some corn, and I've had some luck in these raised beds with corn. But so it gives you some tomatoes, corn, pumpkins, different ideas you can do here. The next thing, obviously, when you're planting your garden, you would need to know how much soil that you would need in the garden. So it has a soil calculator, so you can put in your size of your garden. So if you're doing a raised bed, you put in your length, your width, and your depth, and it'll tell you how much dirt you need, how much soil you need to go in there. So this, is a helpful little tool on raised bed gardening that could help you pre-plan what you want to plant this year, and then you can go and buy the seed and plant them in your house and start growing the seed. It's time to start getting ready to do that. Now, if you go back, there's other things on the site. Planting care. You see how many articles this is, 150, 300. So it's all kind of articles where you can read to give you more insight on what to plant, how much to fertilize, how much to plant. But this is a good little area, a good little site to go to plan out your garden. And that'll give you a head start on growing your garden for this year. Someone has said that if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And that's true in life, and it's also true in gardening. Some of the best gardens I've had, I have used a good plan, planted my seeds early inside, and then transplanted them to the raised bed once it was time to plant them. And so if you can use this tool to get that done, then I think you'll be a lot further along when you get ready to plant your garden. Now, gardening is not easy. It takes a good bit of work, but in these raised beds, it's a lot less work. It's a lot less grass. It's a lot less things that you have to keep up with. When you fertilize it, you fertilize in one spot. You're not fertilizing empty rows or between the rows. So if you do these raised beds, it don't take as much of a room, and it doesn't take as much work as it would on a big garden. But you can get a good yield even though you're not in as big of an area. All right, now that you have a good idea on how to plan for your garden, it's good to get your seeds ordered, get the ones planted that you want grown, figure out which ones you're going to transplant, figure out how big you want your garden to be. Once you've done all that, then it's time to get the work in and do it. But if you start early on your planting, you know what you want to plant, you know which plants grow good together, then I think you'll be well on your way to having a successful garden. If you like the content, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll try to make more of this kind of content in the future.